In the locker room with me, Billy Schwein, on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, because nothing could be finer than talking sports with the Schweiner.
Home of the Philadelphia Eagles.
They've got him! It's a fact!
Sixers.
Oh, baby!
And Flyers. 97.3 ESPN, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Now live from the Matt Blatt Kia Studios, here's Josh Hennig.
Josh Hennig hanging out with you on a Thursday night here on 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Flyers back in action tonight. Sixers back in action tomorrow night. Eagles continue their preparations for NFL Week 18. All that and more this hour here on Game Night. Text board is open at 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Our Flyers insider, Kevin Durso, which are going to be coming up in less than 20 minutes from now. Flyers, look, you can make the argument. The Flyers are the second best team in Philadelphia right now. The argument can be made. With how pitifully the Eagles have played in recent weeks, combine that with the whole idea of the Sixers. I mean, depending on how you feel about the Sixers, but I think the Sixers are playing very well right now. But the Flyers are right in that conversation. And considering the Flyers are entering the new year, if the season ended today, they would not just be in the postseason, but the Flyers would frankly have a arguably favorable matchup because they'd be the number one wild card team and they would not face the number one seed. The number one seed would right now be the Boston Bruins, 52 points. So the Flyers get the number 2 seed and the Rangers, well, they've been erratic this year. So let's Kevin Durso, his perspective on the Flyers, who are 19-13-5 this season, way better than they were last year as they get back to action tonight against the Blue Jackets. Here, the action right here on 97.3 ESPN. But first, we got to get you the latest Eagles injury report here on Game Night on 97.3. It's no surprise that Devonta Smith did not practice today for the Eagles. Okay, that was not the surprise at all. I said this earlier on the Sports Bash with Mike Yale here on 97.3 ESPN. I generally believe Devonta Smith doesn't play this Sunday. That's my theory. That's my belief. Because, one, they don't need him to play in this game in order to win it. Number two, why play a guy with an ankle issue when he could just rest a week and be ready for the postseason? That's how I look at it. I am a little surprised that Darius Slay practiced today. Now, he was limited at practice, but he did practice. And that's a very significant piece of news because Slay, who had knee surgery about 3 weeks ago, he's missed the last 3 games. So if Slay is able to come back for the final game of the year, is it more of a tune-up with a pitch count? Because we were talking last week about Avonte Maddox. And what did a lot of people assume that Avonte Maddox himself was going to be on a pitch count. So is this an opportunity to allow Maddox, Bradbury, and Slay all on the field at the same time, build some chemistry and continuity so they can be more cohesive in the postseason? It's certainly part of the conversation that should be had, which is the reason why I am a proponent for them not sitting guys on Sunday. If you only want to play players for a half and then sit them for the second half, if you have a strong lead, I can understand that. But look what other teams around the NFL are doing. A lot of teams are sitting their guys because they do not want to forward anyone getting injured. And it's not like there's a ton of games this weekend that don't have any consequence. Look, the NFL postseason is still up for grabs. Just because there are 4 teams that have clinched playoff spots in the AFC and 5 in the NFC does not mean that there still couldn't be some crazy movement happening. Aside from the number 1 spots for the Ravens and 49ers, everyone else could move up or down, arguably, in the playoff standings. The Dolphins already clinched a playoff spot, but they can still lose the division on Sunday Night Football. The Jacksonville Jaguars, Indianapolis Colts, and Houston Texans are all playing for the chance to win the division. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they can still make the postseason. In the NFC, the Tampa Bay Bucks, Atlanta Falcons, New Orleans Saints, all of them could win the NFC South. Packers, they could go to the postseason without Aaron Rodgers, without Brett Favre. Think about that for a minute, right? Seattle Seahawks could be 2 straight postseason appearances without Russell Wilson. And then you have the Minnesota Vikings, who are living on a prayer, hoping to get to the playoffs. But yet all of what I just told you doesn't change the fact of all the teams that are playing backups this week. Half the teams in the NFL are starting backups. Look at who we're talking about. You know, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're starting a backup because he's played better than anyone else in recent weeks. For them, Mason Rudolph. The Minnesota Vikings are changing their quarterback again to Nick Mullins. Tennessee is riding with Tannehill instead of Will Levis this week. The Atlanta Falcons have changed quarterbacks so many times this year, I don't even know who the starter is supposed to be, honestly. You look at a team like Philadelphia, they have as much to play for as Dallas does. But are we sure everyone for Dallas is going to play this week? Because we certainly know that everyone for the Rams is going to play. And we know not everyone for the 49ers is going to play. And the Rams have something to gain from this game. So there's a lot of guys who are not playing this weekend. So that's why there's a part of me that says, does Philadelphia just play these guys for a half? Let them get some, game work in. Let them rest for the second half, and whatever happens, happens. I tend to believe that the Dallas Cowboys will beat the Washington Commanders, which means Dallas will win the division. And then no matter what the Eagles do, they will still be sitting in a wild card spot. I hate saying it out loud. I don't want to say it. I don't like to say it. But I just think the Washington Commanders are too much of a Jekyll and Hyde team for me to believe they can pull this off, this upset. So for Philadelphia, you're sitting in the 5 spot right now. In theory, you could drop this. You could, in theory, you don't know who you're playing yet. But the reality is that you can't drop. You're in the 5 spot no matter what if you don't win the division. So you're playing the winner of the NFC South, whether it's Tampa, New Orleans, or Atlanta. So if I'm Philadelphia, how do I handle this? It's hard to scoreboard watch in the middle of a game. Sure, Sirianni at halftime could go look at the score of the Cowboys game and say, yeah, Dallas is up 33 on Washington. Pull everybody. He could do that. Maybe he wouldn't do it like in the middle of the game, but he could certainly do it at halftime. I think there's a real chance we see Marcus Mariota on Sunday, and not because Jalen Hurts got injured. I think the Eagles are going to want to get these guys a couple reps, let them get some, real playing time. Because at the end of the day, Philadelphia, they're locked into the postseason no matter what. Now, if Dallas is losing to Washington, let's say 21-10 at halftime, yeah, Sirianni's put his foot on the gas pedal. Stop messing around and be a grown-up. Why do I say that? Well, listen to what Nick Sirianni said at his last press conference. And you tell me if this sounds like an adult or not, all right? Eagles head coach, Nick Sirianni. Go.
I don't give a what we are out there and what our record is or anything, what losing streak or winning streak it goes. We're going to go out there and we're going to work our minds on the detail of what's going on full speed to the snap out there in walkthrough, and then high intensity at practice. There's no magic to this. Like, hey, we do this or that. Like if we knew exactly what it was, these last couple of weeks, we would have done that. So it's about going to work every single day.
The definition of insanity is doing the same thing again and again and expecting a different result. And as we talked about earlier on the Sports Bash, myself, Mike Gill, and Danny Ryan, Nick Sirianni sounds like an insane person. He legitimately thinks that if they keep doing the same thing again and again and again, that it's going to make a difference. In what world does he think that? I am so confused. What is Sirianni talking about? He says, I don't give a bleep. We're going to keep doing what we're doing. Sirianni is starting to sound like a petulant child in these press conferences. Losing like hard times reveal people's character. You can't lose 4 out of 5 games and honestly say to people, we just got to keep doing what we're doing. You sound like an idiot. So whether Nick Sirianni needs therapy or he's just bloviating and pontificating for the media because they would actually answer the question. At the end of the day, Sirianni is got to get a grip on things. Because he's going to be the head coach here next year. And if this team loses in the first round of the postseason, no one's going to care about your method or how hard you worked. Every Eagle fan is going to demand answers. They're going to demand changes. They're going to demand better of an organization that is 1 year removed from a Super Bowl appearance, an organization that left us all under the impression that they were trying to win a championship this year. And instead, we are handed a team that is falling at the seams, and everyone keeps saying, don't point fingers, we just have to be better. Well, sometimes being better is not enough. Only in sports are you allowed to not do your job well and keep doing your job. And maybe Sirianni needs to chew on that. Josh Hennig here on GameNight 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN. Mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Coming up next, Kevin Durso, our Flyers insider from 97.3 ESPN.com. He will join me to get into who are the Flyers as they start the year 2024. 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It's free. Thanks to First Bank of Seattle.
Scott Graham here from Westwood One. A Saturday NFL doubleheader gets Week 18 started. Up first, the Pittsburgh Steelers visit the AFC top-seeded Baltimore Ravens and need a win to keep playoff hopes alive. Then, 2 more postseason hopefuls match up with the Houston Texans at the Indianapolis Colts. Both are 9-7 and in a 3-way tie atop the AFC South. Join us for Saturday NFL football.
Listen to the NFL on 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at 4 p.m.
Open enrollment is happening right now, New Jersey. Join the many residents who are getting quality, affordable health coverage through Get Covered New Jersey. If you need health insurance, this is the time to enroll. Get Covered New Jersey offers increased plan choices and more savings than ever. 9 in 10 people get financial help or plans that include preventive care, prescriptions, emergency services, and more. And many pay $10 a month or less. Find your plan at getcovered.nj.gov.
Are you ready to smell better naked? I'm Dr. Shannon Klingman, the OBGYN creator of Lumi, the whole body deodorant that's clinically proven to control odor for 72 hours on pits, feet, privates, and beyond. It's pH optimized to safely and effectively control odor anywhere you have it, but wish you didn't. Plus, it's proven to work better than a shower with soap alone. Whether you shower twice a day or 3 times a week, Lumi works better. And who doesn't want zero body odor? With over 200,000 5-star reviews, I'm so sure you're going to love it, or you can return it for free.
There's a special offer for listeners. Use code 800 and get an extra $5 off a Lumi starter pack that comes with a solid stick, cream tube, free product of your choice, and ships free with code 800. LUMEdeodorant.com, code 800 for an extra $5 off a Lumi starter pack. Love it or return it for free. That's LUMEdeodorant.com, code 800.
97.3 ESPN has teamed up with Seize the Deal for incredible weekly offers from some fantastic local restaurants. Here's this week's big deal.
Get a $50 gift card good for use at the 20s Italian Bistro for just $25.
Get this great deal starting Friday at 9 a.m. at seizethedeal.com. Hurry, chances are this deal will sell quickly. For more info on this great deal, go to seizethedeal.com.
We all make resolutions this time of year, and let's face it, most of them won't stick. But here's one that's not only easy to keep, but will help you feel healthier all year long. Navage. Navage provides quick, drug-free nasal relief by washing saline in one nostril, around the back of the nose, and out of the other nostril. This time of year, when everyone is sick, Navage helps by sucking out germs, bacteria, and viruses trapped in our noses that cause us to feel miserable. And come allergy season, it does the same with dust, pollen, and other allergens. And unlike medications that can take time to help, if they're effective at all, Navage helps treat congestion symptoms in seconds flat, without drugs. This New Year's, resolve to use drug-free Navage to help you breathe easier, sleep better, and feel healthier all year long. Ask for Navage at Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Target, or find us online at Navage.com. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E. Clean nose, healthy life.
Progressive asks, what do an escaped leopard,
We're live from the zoo where a leopard has escaped,
a growling stomach, an uneaten tuna sandwich, and a backdoor doggy door have in common? They can lead to an unexpected kitchen renovation.
Yeah, is this the zoo? Your leopard is in my kitchen.
Bundle your home and auto with Progressive for great savings and round-the-clock protection.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper, and you can get it online? Go to hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, and the process is 100% online. To start your free online visit, go to hims.com/joy. That's HIMS.com/JOY.
We're going abroad for the first time in years, to Spain. So we started using Babbel.
And started learning Spanish fast.
With Babbel, you can start having conversations in another language in just 3 weeks.
¿Cómo te llamas? ¿Cómo te llamas?
When you learn a language, you want to actually use it. Babbel is designed with that goal in mind.
In just 3 weeks, we're starting to have conversations in Spanish. Gracias, Babbel.
Babbel, language for life. Start learning a new language today at Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com.
Get ready for the ultimate boxing extravaganza. Hooked on Greatness Boxing Show, presented by Joe Frazier Jr. Promotions and current champion Danny Garcia's DSG Promotions on Saturday, January 13th at Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City. See stellar fighters Leanna Cruz, Dylan Price, Joey DeWaco, and the #1 ranked amateurs in the world, Juan Different Breed Rivera V, and Christian Too Reckless Ortiz. Grab your tickets now at Ticketmaster.com. Don't miss the power, the glory, and the legacy at Hooked on Greatness Boxing Show.
This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
We'll check in on text board a little bit later this hour, 609-403-0973. That is the text board. Of course, Corey chiming in. We'll get to his text and others coming up in just a bit. But right now, Flyers back on 97.3 ESPN tonight. Top of the hour, Tim Saunders and Todd Fedoruk calling all the action, and our Flyers insider, Kevin Durso, joins us live before the game. As Kevin, I had to get you on because, I've been telling people the Flyers are arguably the second best team in Philadelphia right now. And so how can we not talk about the orange and black? How you doing, my man?
I'm doing well, Josh. How are you?
Doing pretty good. So let's start with this question. Who are the Flyers now that we are in 2024?
It's an interesting question because we've started to see, through the course of most of the season, and we've talked about this a little bit, how the style that they play, they come with an identity. It's a lunch pail kind of mentality that they have to take because they don't have the talent on paper. They don't have the skill players that add up to other teams. So that's how they've had to win games. And, they're a big surprise this year because more often than not, it has equated to wins. Lately, though, this is where you kind of find out who they really are because they've lost 5 of 6 coming in, 3 straight. The road trip was a big struggle in terms of trying to gain points, in terms of trying to play to their style also. Teams had them figured out. They had them pinned in their own zone. They had them struggling to skate out of their zone and use the rush the way they have so effectively. And because of that, they were not near as effective. They struggled in those games on the road trip. There were other factors too. To come out of a near week-long break, travel cross-country, they were dealing with a bit of a flu bug in the locker room too. So you have guys playing through some things. All of that adds up. And yet, nonetheless, it wasn't like they necessarily were play drivers throughout the games and kept it super close. I mean, the scores say it was close with the exception of the game against Edmonton that they lost 5-2. You had an overtime loss in Seattle where you clearly didn't have the legs after beating Vancouver. And then the game in Calgary, I think, was the big disappointment because you did have a day between games. You still didn't have the legs. You struggled. The score still said at the end of the night 4-3, but you were not the better team from the very beginning of that game. And then you got outskilled by Edmonton, specifically Connor McDavid. So now you're home. Now you get some time to really kind of build some things back because being at home, they play 12 of the next 17 games on home ice. That's a big chunk of games after playing so much on the road, so much cross-country travel, so much in different time zones. They get to play at home now regularly. And they're going to start with a team that's way below them in the standings in Columbus. Columbus is at the bottom of the Metropolitan Division, a bottom 5 team. Everything on paper by the standings tells you this is an opportunity to right the ship and get back into the win column. But it's not so much a given at this point. They've got to play to their strengths and play to their style because that's the only way they're going to actually win games is by playing to the identity and out hustling teams in terms of the play on the ice. That's the only way they're going to do it.
To play devil's advocate with you for a moment, because, you mentioned some of those scores. It's not like they're being blown out. It's a 1-goal game against the Flames, 1 goal against the Kraken, 1 goal against the Red Wings. So, is it that the Flyers are just being, like you said, figured out, but they can rebound from it? Or are they legitimately on a downward trend? Because to me, aesthetically, as someone who's not, you cover the team every single day, Kevin, but for me, aesthetically, I look at a team that's like, they're right there. They're that close.
Yeah, I think it's the most recent results are what are saying it's a downward trend because realistically speaking, that was a 2-goal game in Calgary. It wasn't a 1-goal game. It finished that way, but it was more a 2-goal game. They were down eventually 3-1 with under 5 minutes to go. They scored a goal with the goalie pulled, gave up an empty netter, scored another with the goalie pulled. It kind of went back and forth, and all of a sudden there was a bunch of goals at the end. The 2-1 game against Seattle, definitely close. Let's not forget that the game in Detroit that they ultimately lost in a shootout was 5-1 after the first period, and that was kind of the beginning of the signs. They did lose a game by 2 goals.
But really quick, isn't that though a sign that they didn't give up in a game like that? Because and I know it's not apples to apples, but like a team like Washington, they've lost by multiple goals a ton of times this year. Didn't they have like a streak where they lost 2 5-1 games, Washington? So like, to me, it's like, hey, Philadelphia is fighting their way back into games, and a team like Washington doesn't have that resolve.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely are. And, specifically talking about the 5-2 game that they just had against Edmonton, that was the first time that they've lost by 3 goals or more in realistically, I think it's the second time it's happened in almost 2 months. They had a 4-1 loss to Carolina at the tail end of November, which was also only a 3-goal loss because of an empty net goal. And then before that, the most recent one that you can find is a 5-0 loss to the Los Angeles Kings at the very beginning of November. So those games are few and far between, and that is that should be a relief to Flyers fans. That it feels like right now, gone are the days when we were coming on here talking about 9-0 losses. We remember those from a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
They're not losing games like that anymore. And they are finding ways to stay within games. Even the Edmonton game, I know the score at the end says 5-2. End of the second period, right into the final minute, it was 2-2. They had rallied back from down 2-0 to get back into that game. So are they competitive? Absolutely. And do they know how to kind of stay with it and try to do that? Yes, they do. But that will wear on a team the more you have to do it. In the last few games, they've started to it's kind of taking on water a little bit. They've started to see some areas where there are weaknesses, and they are starting to fall behind. And when you fall behind in games, you start to chase games. And you don't want to play that style, because when you do that regularly, when you play, all the games that they won throughout the course of December too, where they had to go overtime or a shootout, that's a lot of extra time being played, where all of a sudden you're putting a lot of energy into those games. And it could lead to games where we start to see the opposition be able to take care of business in regulation, as opposed to what the Flyers have been doing for so long with the overtime wins or overtime losses, even gaining points and finding ways to pull out some games that are much closer.
Talking about our Flyers insider Kevin Durso over at 97.3 ESPN.com is where all of his coverage is of the Flyers, at Kevin_Durso on the Twitter X platform. So, Kevin, you mentioned about what they are moving forward. So what is moving forward is they are back home. They're on a homestand. 4 or 5 straight home games at this point, 4 straight home games. So for the Flyers, what do you want to see from this homestand?
Well, from the playoff perspective, being that they are in a spot right now, you've got to get some things right now. You've got to get things back to where you were if you want to continue the magical run. I think what I want to see more than anything right now is some of the players that have been slumping offensively to start to find a way again. Pretty much, if you were a forward on this team over the course of the road trip, if your name was not Travis Konechny or Joel Farabee, you weren't scoring. They scored 10 goals over those 4 games on the most recent road trip. 5 of them were by defensemen, and among the other 5, 2 were Travis Konechny, 1 was Joel Farabee, 1 was a shorthanded goal by Garnet Hathaway, and the other was a goal by Bobby Brink at 6-on-5. That's not very effective. And look, by this point, you're not solving your power play woes overnight, maybe for the rest of the season, because the personnel is just not there. But you've been a really good 5-on-5 team, and you need some other guys to pitch in beyond Konechny and Farabee. So I want to see other guys start to step up and kind of take on that responsibility and continue to scoring by committee. We're seeing some lineup changes in this game tonight because of that. Cam Atkinson's on a career-long scoreless streak in terms of goals. He's out of the lineup. So is Morgan Frost. Into the lineup goes Rhett Gardner. Nick Delorier is supposed to come back. They're going to dress 11 forwards and 7 defensemen for the second straight game. And all of that is going to kind of equate to trying to figure out a combination right now that works to get you back to your style. So we'll see how well this works in this particular game. But certainly for a lot of guys, not just the ones who are sitting out, a lot of guys need a reset right now and to kind of get back to what was working before the break.
You mentioned Travis Konechny, how well he has played. I don't think it's unfair to say that you're not going to win a Stanley Cup if Travis Konechny is your best player. I don't think that's being mean to say that. So what is, if the Flyers were to make a deal and Keith Jones or Danny Briere walks downstairs and says, "Hey, Kevin Durso, what kind of player do you think I need to get for this team?" What would your answer be to them?
I think you need more centermen, because you take they're taking Morgan Frost out of the lineup tonight. They're thin at center without him. And we all know about the situation with Morgan Frost and John Tortorella and kind of the disagreements there. So that's probably beyond repair. But the idea is that you take him out, you take a playmaker out of your lineup, and you're going forward in this game tonight at center with Sean Couturier at the top. Ryan Poehling and Scott Lawton are going to have to play center in the middle, and then Rhett Gardner's probably your center on that 4th line. That's not deep at center at all. That's a big weakness area. They've got wingers who can play around a really effective center if they could get one. And sure, the hope is that Cutter Gauthier could be a center. That's what they're trying to figure out right now in his play in Boston College, and he's playing center at World Juniors right now too. Is he going to be a center? But you have to see how that's going to translate at the NHL level, and that's not an immediate answer. It's going to take some time to figure that out. So you can be hopeful, but it's not going to solve your problem overnight. Beyond that, they really don't have – I mean, they're hoping to get Noah Cates back. Maybe Noah Cates would be a guy who could slot back in, but for now, that's not going to be part of the equation either while he's recovering from injury. So if you were making a deal and trying to figure out the best thing to get, I mean, really the answer if you're making a deal with any of these players right now is to get draft capital back so that you can go out and try to get a player who you think could amount to a center. Similarly, they need more defensive depth. They don't have a top-end defenseman. Travis Sanheim's played really well this year, but that doesn't equate to being a number one defenseman. He's been really good. Doesn't mean that he's the solution at number one there. It's another position you probably need to draft at to feel comfortable about in terms of building that position out and having somebody. They've gotten tons of contributions from way above expectations from guys like Sean Walker and Nick Seeler, and that's all well and good, but you got to remember what they really are, and they're not going to suddenly supplant guys that would typically be number one defensemen in this league. They're not that. They're far from it. So playing above your expectations is great, but it doesn't answer all your problems. So the two biggest areas of need are eventually build out your forward position at center and build out your defensive core, because you've got two really good goalies. You've got a really good supporting staff on defense. You've got good wingers and some depth at forward, but you don't really have a superstar yet. You hope that that may be solved with what Gauthier or Matvei Mishkov could bring down the road, but you can still keep going for more in that area. So you want to get maybe some star power, center depth, defensive depth, and see how that solidifies your team going forward.
I want to get to Gauthier as well, but first I want to touch on the Morgan Frost thing. So with that being said, would he be a likely guy to be traded at the deadline then, if he's a guy who's kind of without a place on this roster?
The deadline, I don't know, because he still could have, like this year in particular, he still could have a place, because if he's not playing, it's going to be hard to get fair value for him. So you might have to throw him into games just to keep building the value. And that's kind of the tightrope that John Tortorella's got to walk right now, is because you can feel like he's not producing well enough. And I understand why he's kind of scratched in this situation, because being in Tortorella's doghouse aside, you have a bad stretch of games, you're going to be a likely candidate because you want to keep playing young players who are younger than Frost, who may have a bigger future. You also have to keep certain guys in who have a more defined role than Frost does, like, say, Scott Lawton or Ryan Poehling, who are really key to the penalty kill. If Frost isn't helping your power play go over the top and producing a ton, and he's not used on the penalty kill, and at 5-on-5 he's been okay, then he becomes a candidate to come out of the lineup. But you're going to have to see what you can get for him and play him to try to boost his value as best as possible if you're going to make a move. I don't know if there's enough time left before the deadline to keep playing this game of in and out the lineup and really get what you want. That might be an off-season thing. And I think that that's where it's going to probably be most explored, is the off-season, because it's going to be hard to see them go into next season, even though Frost is under contract for another year. It's going to be hard to go into another year thinking that this is going to be okay, that this is going to work out in some capacity. So that's where I think you start to see maybe the potential that something comes up. We'll see if it happens at the deadline. I think more the deadline activity, though, is going to be the idea of what do you do with the guys on one-year contracts, and where do you stand as a team when the deadline rolls around in terms of the playoff picture? Because this is already farther than most people thought it was going to go, that they're in a playoff picture nearly halfway through the season. By the end of the month, we're going to approach the All-Star break. What do you do? What does the team do over that last month and change before the trade deadline to determine what direction they go? Do you still play seller, or do you keep the band together a little bit because they've earned the right to see if they can make a run together and at least not sabotage that? You're not going to be a buyer, but you're not going to necessarily sell a ton if you think that you want to let this team have an opportunity to make a run and reward them with that. So that's why I'm kind of questionable on what happens with Frost in the immediate versus in the offseason. But I do think it's an offseason conversation for sure.
Called more for Flyers insider Kevin Durso. Flyers versus the Blue Jackets tonight. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. here on 97.3 ESPN. You mentioned the goaltenders. Someone suggested to me, you know how Flyer fans can be, right? So I'm sure you know what my question is going to be before I ask it, but maybe the audience listening doesn't know where I'm going. Could there be a goaltender controversy with this team? Because let's be realistic. Flyer fans, they are an interesting bunch. For Flyer fans, all they know is the last real goaltender we had is Ron Hextall, right? Like that's where Flyer fans' minds go. And seeing Ersan play the way he did without Carter Hart, it does make some people wonder, right?
Sure it does. And I'll keep repeating myself like a broken record if I have to. In today's NHL, you need 2 goaltenders. So it is not a controversy in the slightest. Right now, they have 2 quality goaltenders who are performing well, and both of them are in terms of goals against average. They're both top 20 in the league. That's above other teams' primary starters. So there's teams out there that could be looking around going, I wish we had 2 goalies, even 1 goalie capable of doing what these 2 are. What I do find interesting about it is that, early in the year, it was a lot of starts for Carter Hart and the occasional one for Sam Ersson. There's kind of a balance now. Ersson's getting the start tonight. Hart started in Edmonton. Ersson started in Calgary. Hart started in Seattle. You've kind of seen them go to the Boston Bruin, New York Islander rotation that they tend to have made their tradition because those teams have much more consistently had 2 goaltenders to rotate. The Flyers kind of now are doing that and giving Ersson almost equal balance of starts with Hart. And some of that may have to do with what Hart went through over the course of the last month, being in and out with illness. But it's not a bad way to go about being in the playoff picture and trying to give each guy regular opportunities to play. It's not a bad way to go about it if both are capable of helping you win. And both have certainly proven that. So there's nothing wrong with giving them the opportunity. And yet, I understand where you're coming from in asking the question, because I see it all the time in terms of not even just the fact that whether or not there's a controversy among the 2 goaltenders who are starter capable, but Carter Hart lets in a bad goal against Detroit when they had come back from that 5-1 deficit to take a 6-5 lead. He lets in a bad goal, and I'll see everything light up. Hart's terrible. He's not good enough. All that stuff. The numbers are going to tell you otherwise. Did he let in a bad goal? Sure he did. And it's going to happen to a lot of goaltenders. Ersson's let in some he probably would like to have back as well. But people kind of see the new shiny toy that Ersson's been through orange-colored glasses and enjoy the fact that he's been kind of the hot goalie lately. And Hart has had some struggles in the last few games. Ersson kind of didn't have the best game in Calgary now, so he's looking for a bounce-back game in this one in particular. So we'll see what happens. But for now, the rotation's been a good thing to me. I think it's the way you should approach the regular season, and I hope that they go forward with it for right now while they have 2 guys who are playing at a solid level.
Before I let you go, obviously one of the things about the Flyer situation right now, Kevin, is the fact that their best players are not on this team right now long term. And that's, you mentioned Gauthier. There's a couple of different guys. I was talking with one guy earlier. He goes, "Oh, the Russian guy," right? Like that's where people are with the Flyers. Like they know these guys are out there somewhere in the atmosphere, but like they don't. It's like if someone's looking at the stars and they're like, "I know there's constellations up there, but I have no idea what they are." So like, give the audience just a quick cliff notes. Like, look, this is who these guys are, and this is how far out they are.
Yeah, I mean, the headliner is, as John Tortorella called him a little while back, John Tortorella called Matvei Mishkov the Mad Russian, and that's probably going to be a nickname that sticks because people seem to love that one. He's been great in the KHL this year. He's really been great, and pretty much every time I find out his team is playing a game in the KHL, it's followed by a clip of some kind where he's producing. He's easily been their best player and on his team, and that's all well and good. Obviously, there's some things to get over before he becomes a Flyer for good. He's got to get over to North America first and foremost. He's got a contract in the KHL that's going to last 2 more seasons beyond this. So patience is going to be a virtue with this player. He's super talented. He's a game-changing kind of player, but you got to be patient with him and kind of let this timeline play out before he's here. You can look at a lot of the other players they have, and the path to getting them here is much easier. Timelines are a little bit different for different guys. Gauthier is the headliner in that group because he's closest. He's quite possibly here by the end of the season. That's how close he could be here. And Gauthier had a huge moment. Actually, pregame, once I got down to the arena, I'm working on a story for the website now, a notebook story about Gauthier scoring the game-winning goal in the World Junior semifinals today that puts USA in the gold medal game tomorrow against Sweden. He's been the leading scorer among all players at World Juniors with 12 points, only 2 goals, his second coming today, but 10 assists. So, and there's people who will tell you 2 goals, 10 assists, 12 points, leading scorer in that tournament. he hasn't even been his most impressive self. It's not even really up to his character. He's the third leading goal scorer in the NCAA Division I college hockey players, among college hockey players this year. And yet he hasn't been the goal scorer in the World Junior Championships. So that's the interesting part. He showcased that shot today on the power play to score that game-winning goal. And now we'll see what happens moving forward with him once the gold medal game happens, once he goes back to college for the rest of his college season, and then beyond that. I do want to shout out two Canadian junior players that they drafted this past year that are also having really strong seasons. Oliver Bonk was the team's other first-round pick this year. He's been really solid, kind of had a moment that is probably going to define his mental toughness coming up here because he was playing for Team Canada at World Juniors, and Canada got eliminated by Czechia a couple days ago in the quarterfinals on a shot that went off of his stick and deflected past his goaltender. So he was clearly emotional about it on the bench when it happened. It's going to test his mental fortitude, but if he's a strong mental kid, bounces back, could be a great player for his junior team again. We'll see how his junior season goes. And the Flyers appear to have a find in one of their third-round picks, Denver Barkey, who also plays on the same junior team as Oliver Bonk. Barkey's been this shorthanded specialist, really strong goal scorer, kind of a Danny Briere-looking type of talent. Like, he's short. He looks like Ian LaPerriere always joked, he looks like he's 12 years old, but he's scoring at a great rate right now for a player just coming out of his draft year. So that's encouraging for the Flyers going forward. They've got a nice pipeline going. Now it's about seeing the next steps in development for all of those guys. But certainly Gauthier and Mishkov are the two guys you want to focus on the most if you're a Flyers fan. They're the distant stars, or maybe Gauthier's the not so distant one, and Mishkov is somewhere off in the universe. But regardless, those are the two guys that have the highest potential and are the ones that are focused on the most because they could be the biggest game changers once they get to the NHL.
I'm sure someone out there has heard you say somewhere out there in the universe, and since you call him the Mad Russian, maybe someone will make a meme and turning him into Thanos, calling him the Mad Titan coming from Russia or something. So.
I wouldn't be surprised if I got memes of another Russian player who was with the Flyers who once said the solar system is so humongous big. So I appreciate you giving me the chance to drop that on here tonight. That's I haven't said that one recently, but I appreciate getting the opportunity for that one.
He's Kevin Durso. You're not going to get any information like this unless you follow him at Kevin_Durso on Twitter, at 973ESPN.com is all of his Flyers content. And of course, he joined us here before Flyers and Blue Jackets, 7 p.m. tonight on 97.3 ESPN. Kevin, great stuff today. Enjoy the game, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Kevin always does a great job joining us here on Game Night. And, listen, the Flyers, as I said, they are one of the better sports teams right now in Philadelphia. So, listen, we got the Flyers game on tonight. We have the Flyers game on Saturday versus Calgary at 1 o'clock. You're going to hear more Flyers hockey in the coming months, not just because football season is winding down, but because the Flyers are actually an interesting conversation point. And listen, as Kevin said, the Flyers are not a team that's going to contend for a championship this year, but they're a team on the rise. And when you have a team on the rise, they are interesting. They are part of the conversation. And it's been a while that we've had a Flyers team that has this kind of potential. In the years past, there were a lot of Flyer teams that it felt like they were like, just like they were mutts. They were like cars that were built from different parts, all stuck into one vehicle. And it's like, well, that's from a Toyota and that's from a Ford. And I got this engine from a Nissan, and you were looking at the Flyers and you're like, well, I guess it makes sense. They could be. And now they're doing it way more organically. They're trying to build something short and long term. And I think for me, someone like myself, that is what is exciting and interesting. And as I said to Kevin, the future of this team are some really great players. And listen, if half of the guys he talked about, he mentioned 4 guys there. He mentioned Markov, he mentioned Cordier, he mentioned Bonk, and he mentioned Barkey. If 2 of those 4 guys turn out to be anything that we expect them to be, the Flyers are going to be in really good shape a few years. And that could mean that Philadelphia, there's a bit of a youth movement going on right now with the Philadelphia teams. And as we see the pages get turned, it's going to be interesting to see how these players line up in a few years. Because I wrote that article a few months ago, the best players in Philadelphia 25 or younger. That list is going to keep morphing, not just because guys are getting older, but because as some of these guys start moving up the rankings, you're going to realize that Philadelphia Eagles may be the king of sports in the city of brotherly love, but they're going to have competition from the other teams more often than not moving forward to be headliners in the conversation. All right, back to the text board. Coming up next, 609-403-0973 and your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank Seattle.
It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey tonight on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Listen as Tim Saunders and Todd Fedor bring you all the exciting play-by-play action. It's Flyers Blue Jackets. Tonight, coverage begins at 7 p.m. It's Flyers hockey all season long on South Jersey's radio home for Philadelphia Flyers hockey, 97.3 ESPN.
Get ready for the ultimate live boxing extravaganza. Hooked on Greatness Boxing Show, presented by Joe Frazier Jr. Promotions and current champion Danny Garcia's DSG Promotions on Saturday, January 13th at Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City. Grab your tickets now at Ticketmaster.com.
It seems like everywhere you look right now, someone is sick. This year, prepare your family for airborne invaders like bacteria, pollen, and yes, germs with Navage Nasal Care. Navage flushes ultra-pure, refreshing saline in one nostril, around the back of the nose, and out of the other nostril. Navage sucks out viruses, dust, and other airborne particles, all the stuff that gets trapped in your nose, making you miserable. Don't get caught empty-handed this winter. Get Navage, the drug-free solution that helps you breathe easier, sleep better, and feel healthier. Even better, Navage is HSA, FSA eligible. So Navage is a great way to spend those funds before they expire. Don't wait a minute longer. Buy Navage today and you'll breathe easier knowing you're putting your funds to good use. Navage is available online at Navage.com or Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, and Rite Aid. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E. Clean nose, healthy life.
With savings at the Home Depot, we'll get your kitchen clicking. With top-rated appliances like a GE Profile refrigerator with convenient features like a built-in dual dispense autofill pitcher. Plus, with seamless shopping in-store and online, everything you need for your kitchen is just a click away. Get up to $800 off select kitchen appliances from top brands like GE Profile at the Home Depot. Pricing valid January 4 through 24. Gas ranges and dryers extra. U.S. only. See store or online for details.
Are you ready to smell better naked? I'm Dr. Shannon Klingman, the OBGYN creator of Lumi, the whole body deodorant that's clinically proven to control odor for 72 hours on pits, feet, privates, and beyond. It's pH optimized to safely and effectively control odor anywhere you have it, but wish you didn't. Plus, it's proven to work better than a shower with soap alone. Whether you shower twice a day or 3 times a week, Lumi works better. And who doesn't want zero body odor? With over 200,000 5-star reviews, I'm so sure you're going to love it, or you can return it for free.
There's a special offer for listeners. Use code 800 and get an extra $5 off a Lumi starter pack that comes with a solid stick, cream tube, free product of your choice, and ships free with code 800. LumeDeodorant.com, code 800 for an extra $5 off a Lumi starter pack. Love it or return it for free. That's LumeDeodorant.com, code 800.
Now, during Staples Print Big Sale, get $20 off your print purchase of 100 or more, $50 off your print purchase of 200 or more, and $100 off your print purchase of 300 or more. So the more you print at Staples, the more you save. To demonstrate, print at Staples, you save. But if you print at Staples, you save. See how that works? Staples Print Big Sale. Print more, save more. Up to $100. Ends 2/10. Visit staples.com/print for details.
Oh, yeah, it's on at Matt Black Nissan.
If you're currently stuck in a loan or lease, AJ the Trademan can get you released. Matt Black Nissan.com. It's on at Matt Black Nissan on the Black Horse Pike.
Harbor Township.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Go to hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, and the process is 100% online. To start your free online visit, go to hims.com/joy. That's HIMS.com/JOY.
At Granger, we're for the ones who specialize in saving the day and for the ones who've mastered the art of keeping business moving. We offer industrial-grade supplies for every industry with same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders, all backed by real people ready to help. So you can get the right answers and products right when you need them. Call quickgranger.com or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ziprecruiter.com/free. That's ziprecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Hard Rock Atlantic City invites you to join us at a community celebration on Saturday, January 6th at 3 p.m. in honor of Mainland Regional High School winning the Group 4 State Football Championship. The event is open to the public and free to attend. Mainland Regional High School students, faculty, parents, and alumni are invited to attend for this very special spirited event to celebrate their historic win and undefeated football season. It's Saturday, January 6th, 3 p.m. at Hard Rock Live in the Ennis Arena. Go Mustangs!
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and on the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
I promise I get to the text board before we get out of here. Corey, the Commanders fan who listens to the station, he chimed in and says, "Hey, Josh, great show per usual. There is one other profession that you could also get away with not doing your job. That's politicians. LOL." That's from Corey, the Commanders fan. Well, first of all, it's ironic that Corey said that because he is a Washington Commanders fan. And of course, Washington is the home of the greatest collection of politicians in the country. So, look, we say it in jest, but I do want to use the opportunity to say this. I did write an article earlier today at 97.3ESPN.com, and you can get on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. You know, the politicians of New Jersey are continuing to leave a dark cloud over some great small businesses in South Jersey. You guys know, how much, I am about small business in New Jersey. One of those small businesses are the craft producers in South Jersey. And you guys have, seen on our website, 973ESPN.com, all the articles I've written about some of the great people who have businesses down here, the breweries, the wineries, the distilleries, and the Trenton politicians. They basically are working 3 days until January 25th, maybe 4 days actually. But I detail how basically these politicians are holding hostage these businesses. So maybe you guys, I was just reminded by Corey's text on the text board that you guys can just take a look at the article and just to get yourself an idea of, what's really going on and why these small businesses are really being put into predicament. But basically the summary is that if the politicians don't get their heads out of the sand, these businesses are going to suffer. We've already had enough small businesses closed in recent years. So I want to see that happen again. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night. Flyers hockey next.
It's
Sixers basketball tomorrow night on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the Sixers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Maxey triple team to Beverly in the corner for three. It's good. Patrick Beverly, corner three.
It's Sixers Knicks tomorrow night. Coverage begins at 7:30. It's Sixers basketball all season long on South Jersey's radio home for Philadelphia 76ers basketball. 97.3 ESPN.
It's Macy's one-day sale.